Carol Butler here, and
Marcus J. Butler.
and we wanted to come up here once again and share with you about marriage and things that we've experienced and what we've learned through our education. And so,
In 12 years of marriage, almost 12 years of marriage.
right.
I think out of that time, we learned a couple of things.
Yeah, we have. So, I want to pose a question to you, Marcus.
To me?
Yes.
Oh, I get the privilege to answer the question. All right, hold on. All right.
All right. So, what do you think, or how do you feel about the phrase, when you marry your in-laws too?
That is a good question. So when you marry your in-laws too. I do not agree with that statement. I understand the premise of it and the reason behind it, but at the same time, I don't agree with it. Here's why. Because when I marry, the Bible says that a husband will leave his mother and his father, and he will cleave to his wife. Cleave means join together with his wife, and the two will become one flesh. I didn't marry your mom. I didn't marry your dad. Now, when I marry you, they come with the package, right? So I'm going to have a relationship, or I would love to have a relationship,
Right.
hopefully a healthy one, a happy one, a successful one with your mom, with your dad, with your siblings, and whoever else is involved in your family. At the same time, I am not responsible for them. As your husband, I am your head, and I am responsible with what happens with you and our children. I'm not responsible for what happens with your mom, your dad, and you're not responsible for my mom and my dad. And I just wanted to really clarify this here. It's that when I marry you,
Right.
I marry you. I did not marry mom or dad. I did not marry
Right.
anybody else. When I go home at night and I lay my head down, I'm looking at you.
Right.
I'm not looking at anybody else.
Okay. That would be weird.
I better not look at anybody else, right? And so the thing there that I really want to emphasize is I married you.
Right.
And we have to learn how to instill boundaries in our relationship
Yes. Yes.
to have a healthy relationship with our in-laws.
Right.
What often happens and what we experience as well is that we didn't establish boundaries. And you also have to
Right,
establish
yeah.
boundaries in your marriage. But right now, we'll say that for another day, and we are talking about in-laws. And so you have to establish boundaries in any relationship. It's not just the in-laws, but with any relationship that you
Every
have,
relationship.
you have
Yeah.
to put up a boundary line that says, this is how far you can come.
Mm-hmm.
If you cross this line, then there's a consequence
Right.
and a reaction. I'm not saying you're going to go out and fight
Right.
and body slam nobody. I hope you don't do that.
Okay.
But you have to instill some restrictions, some
Right.
boundaries, and say, okay, here's my fence, here's my boundary line, here's my border. Don't cross this.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Exactly.
also frees you. It freed us up with the great privilege
Right.
and the refreshing honor of learning how to say no. Man, no was freeing. I tell you
It was
right
freeing, but difficult at the
Yes.
same time.
now. But
Yes.
oftentimes, the most difficult things that you go through in life are often for you the most freeing.
Yes.
It
Yes.
it takes you to another level. It takes
Right.
you to a place of strength, of confidence. And as you begin to go through the hard things, they prepare you for a tougher season. And
Yeah.
what was hard for you before will now become easy for you. And so what was hard for us in learning to say no, at a later point, gradually became easier, and we were like, whew,
Right. Yeah.
I didn't have to obligate myself to something that I did not want to do.
Did not want to do. That's why you put boundaries. Like, listen, you got to learn to say no. Okay?
Capital N.
No can help save your sanity.
Capital O.
Capital N-O. No. But to go off to the statement, I think when people use that statement of you marry your in-laws too, I think it's because they don't understand boundaries. Like,
Makes sense.
if you have boundaries set up, there is no in-law, there is no one that can come any further than what you allow in your marriage, because not everybody is supposed to be a part of the sacredness of your marriage, but you, your spouse, and God. That's it. And so unfortunately, there are times where some people think that statement is true, and so they go and just like live life like that, and that is horrible. It is horrible, because what it doesn't do is allow the husband and wife to act as one. And because when you have all these other voices trying to come in, that's going to cause chaos and confusion. And nobody has time for that. Like, I'm just so glad we didn't like experience that type of chaos and confusion, because that would have been whoa. Like, I can't even imagine that.
And one specific, so there's all types of boundaries, and you'll have to just gradually instill them as you go along and as you experience life with people, and say, okay, you can't keep doing this. But one specific boundary that I placed, and that Carol did as well, is when we first got married, we put a boundary that we weren't going to share with our parents,
Right.
our conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
So oftentimes what happens is your parents love you.
Right.
You know, if you have great parents, they want what's best for you. You're their child. They raised you, and they want what's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're marrying a person who they're going to have your back, most likely more than they're going to have the person's back that you married. And so we decided that we weren't going to share our issues and our conflicts.
Right.
Here's why. Because if I go run to my mom and say, man, Carol's doing this, Carol's doing that, she's not doing this, she's not cleaning up, she's not cooking, all these things that may be frustrating to me, and I just want to get it off of my chest.
Right.
Well, with your family, that stays on them.
Mm-hmm. They are not as forgiving as your spouse, because you and your spouse are one.
Exactly.
Like, that's gonna be like 2 days from now, you're not gonna remember that.
You're gonna
it's
move
gonna be
on
whatever.
from that whole topic.
All right, and
And
y'all
when
like
they see her
totally in
again-
love, and
right.
then when the in-laws see her or him again, they're gonna remember that.
And thoughts are gonna come up like,
Thoughts.
yeah, that's right. You know what? She don't clean anyway. She don't cook. What type of wife is this? And those thoughts and those feelings and those conversations that you have with them
Yep.
began to plant seeds of what am I looking for? Seeds of disparity, of confusion,
Right.
and
It's creating
wedges.
storylines that aren't even true. It's all in a person's head, all because of they heard somebody vent. They heard their child vent to them about their spouse. The child has forgiven the spouse already, but they're creating storylines of they go into the house, oh, yeah, that's really not that clean. I guess he must be telling the truth, or she must be telling the truth. And it is not necessary. It is like total confusion.
And your parents may want to know, but don't tell them.
No,
because
it ain't none of their business.
It doesn't help your
It
relationship.
doesn't help. It does not help you grow. In marriage, you're supposed to be growing together. It's like your husband, you the wife, and you're growing together towards God. That leaves room for
And
no one else.
This is a great example. The closer you get to God, the closer you get together. But the further away you get from God, the further away you get from one another. And that's what
Right.
marriage is. That's a key point to marriage, that as you work together, as you put God at the center of your marriage, the focus of your marriage, and as you get closer and closer and closer and closer to God, you get closer to one another. And God should be the center and the focus
Right.
of your marriage. Thank you.
So that is like for one, when we finally started placing boundaries in marriage between in-laws, man, it was so hard, yet so beautiful at the same time. And it actually changed the dynamics of the relationship. Coming from my side, we experienced some conflict a couple of years into our marriage when we went to go help my grandfather out. And during that time, we had to instill boundaries with my side of the family. And it was difficult. It was really difficult. And there were some days it was like, man, it was so hard. But after a while, it was a little while, it started to show us, it actually drew us together. It brought us closer together, and it helped them to respect us more as a husband and wife duo. So we just want to, share with you, create healthy boundaries. And one book that we would suggest too is Henry Cloud, Boundaries in Marriage. Check that out. All right. So until next time, Team Butler here, and we're signing off.
Thank you.